So, I've heard a rumor that we left off before chapter 13.
It's true.
All right. So we'll hit chapter 13 and 14 and knock those out real quick. Verses 1 to 6. By the word of the Lord, a man of God came from Judah to Bethel, as Jeroboam was standing by the altar making an offering. He cried out against the altar by the word of the Lord. "O altar, altar, this is what the Lord says. A son named Josiah will be born to the house of David. On you he will sacrifice the priests of the high places who now make offerings here. Human bones will be burned on you." That same day the man of God gave a sign. "This is the sign the Lord has declared. The altar will be split apart and the ashes will be poured out." When King Jeroboam heard what the man of God cried out against the altar in Bethel, he stretched out his hand from the altar and said, "Seize him!" But the hand he stretched out toward the man shriveled up, so that he could not pull it back. This is where parents say, "Don't stick your tongue out, or it'll get stuck that way." Cross your eyes. Yeah, don't cross your eyes. But the hand he stretched out toward the man shriveled up, so that he could not pull it back. Are you having a hard time today? It's like the fourth time you've fallen down. Have a seat. Sorry. So, also the altar was split apart and its ashes poured out according to the signs given by the man of God and by the working of the Lord. Then the king said to the man of God, "Intercede with the Lord God and pray for me, that my hand may be restored." So it's interesting. So the king stuck out his hand to do what?
Stop.
He said, "Seize that guy." And now who does he ask to pray for him so that his hand can come back?
Same guy.
That guy. Right. So it's interesting. Who do the wicked want to heal them? They want God to heal them, right? It's interesting that those who are against God, when it comes right down to it, guess who they're praying to for help?
God.
Right? And people talk about this in military scenarios, right? Where they say in a foxhole, there's no atheists in a foxhole, right? There's a reason that they say that. Because the atheists start at least hoping that there is a God when it comes into those scenarios. Verses 8 to 10, it says, "But the man of God answered him, I answered the king, even if you were to give me half of your possessions, I would," verse 7 actually. "The king said to the man of God, 'Come home with me and have something to eat, and I will give you a gift.'" So now the king wants to make friends, right? In a very real and meaningful way. "But the man of God answered the king, even if you were to give me half of your possessions, I would not go with you, nor would I eat bread or drink water here. For I was commanded by the word of the Lord, you must not eat bread or drink water or return by the way you came." So he took another road and did not return by the way he had come to Bethel. So what does the man of God know about this scenario?
What God told him.
Which was, let's talk about that. It becomes important.
Yeah.
So what was his mission? If he had work, like a mission outline from God, how would it read? What was he supposed to do?
Go to Bethel,
Go to Bethel and,
tell the people what God says is going to happen.
right? And then as a sign, what would happen?
And then,
The altar would split, the ashes would pour out. And then there was another thing that was part of his command from God.
Don't go back the way you came. Don't eat or
Don't eat
drink.
or drink, and don't go back to the cave.
Yeah.
So he's got a pretty clear outline. He's got an entrance plan, exit plan, and a job description of what he's to do when he's there. So verse 11. "Now there was a certain old prophet," and it's always bizarre to me, by the way, that they never mention the names of these people in here, and it's such a fantastic story, but they don't even get into talking about the names of the people.
Yeah.
"But now there was a certain old prophet living in Bethel, whose sons came and told him all that the man of God had done there that day. They also told their father that he had said to the king, what he had said to the king. Their father asked him, 'Which way did he go?' And the son showed him the road on which the man from Judah had taken. So he said to his sons, 'Saddle my donkey for me.' And when he saddled the donkey for him, he mounted it and he rode after the man of God. And he found him sitting under an oak tree, and he asked, "Are you the man of God who came from Judah?" "I am," he replied. So the prophet said to him, "Come home with me and eat." The man of God said, "I cannot go back with you, nor can I eat any bread or drink any water with you in this place. I have been told by the word of the Lord, you must not eat bread or drink water there, or return by the way you came." Does he know what he's supposed to be doing?
Yes.
Like he's repeated it twice, right? So the man of God knows he shouldn't stay, right? Because you're blank there. So the old prophet answered him, "I too am a prophet, as are you." And the angel and an angel said to me by the word of the Lord, "Bring him back with me to your house, so that he may eat bread and drink water." But he was lying to him. So the man of God returned with him and ate and drank in his house.
So you have to beware of prophets that ride donkeys.
I don't know that that's it, because Jesus also rode a donkey.
No, that's true.
So I don't know that that is the standard. However, if somebody tells you and says, "Oh, this is of God," what should you do?
That
Check with God.
Check with God. If God had already told them, and also too, it's worth mentioning too, does God conflict with himself?
No.
Right? Does God say, "Go do this," and he says, "Don't go do this"?
No.
He doesn't do that.
He's the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow.
Right. So, if for some reason someone was having a struggle with this, how could they get it resolved? There you go. Problem solved. So, if the man of God, who has clearly had conversations with God previously, wanted to figure out if this is what God wanted, how could he go about figuring it out? Talk to God about that, right? If you don't hear anything, and he already had one mission given from God, what should he do?
Stay with it.
Stick with what God told you to do. I mean, isn't that the nature of faith?
Yes.
Right? Now here's what's crazy. This guy actually puts his faith in this old prophet who was lying, because had the young prophet seen this angel speak to the old prophet? No. So what is faith?
Believe it.
The belief in things not seen. Which means this young prophet, his faith shifted from God, and then he put his faith into this man. Right? He didn't see any of the stuff that this man said, "Oh, this happened." He didn't see any of it. So he ended up actually giving this man higher faith than he had given God, because he saw what God had said. Right? He interacted and experienced what God had said, and yet he just shifted his faith into this man without checking with God or any of that stuff, which is bizarre to me. But I will say too, that might be one of the signs of youth and age. Youth often do stupid things, right? But the aged realize, yeah, that's dumb. And it's interesting too, because this old prophet, there's at least a little bit of a disgusting element about this old prophet, because who does that? Like, who goes and it appears to me that this old prophet, just out of his own curiosity, wants to see if it's true, and so he thinks, you know what, if God sends him, and if I can go do something that God told him not to do, then God will kill him, and then I'll know if it's true. It's right, it's really a messed up story. It's one of the most bizarre, screwball-y messed up stories in the Old Testament, because, I mean, it's a type of trap that I could see myself falling into.
So, but we never find out why that prophet did that, right?
No, he just wanted, that is why he did it. He wanted to know for sure that the things that were said were true.
So he was trying to test God.
He was trying to use somebody else to test God. Yeah, he wouldn't have done the test if his own life was on the line.
Maybe he had Alzheimer's.
Well, later on, when the guy dies, the lion kills him, he's standing there, he goes out there and sees him.
And he says, now we know for sure.
And he tells his sons, bury me next to him because of what he did here.
I feel
He is
responsible.
man of God.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really bizarre thing. So,
This is Jesus.
while they're sitting at the table, the word of the Lord came to the old prophet, who had brought him back. And he cried out to the man of God who had come from Judah. This is what the Lord says. You have defiled the word of the Lord and have not kept the command of the Lord that God gave you. You came back and you ate bread and drank water in this place where he told you not to eat or drink. Therefore, your body will not be buried in the tomb of your fathers. And I just gotta feel like, if you're the guy, you're like, what the stinking heck? Are you serious? I'm amazed somebody didn't get killed. This is the kind of thing, like these are fighting words. Well, I mean, somebody got killed, but I'm amazed. Like the tables weren't thrown over. If this was a Western scene, it would have got out of control real quick. There would have been a lot of broken glass and bottles smashed over people's heads. But when the man of God had finished eating and drinking, and it's funny because then he even still stays and finishes his meal.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I guess I'm dead. I might as well enjoy this. When he finished eating and drinking, the prophet who had brought him back saddled his donkey for him. I don't understand what the heck is going on. So here's your blank. An awkward dinner. It can only be an awkward dinner. Like, if you ever, I can't imagine what it would be like to sit down with somebody who you know just got you killed and go ahead and finish your dinner with them and then them walk you outside so politely and say, you know what? Hey, I can tell you're having a rough day because of what I did. So let me saddle your donkey for you. I don't know what I would do with this. I will say it is a remarkably bizarre thing that the young guy just kind of, okay, goes with it. Very weird. When the man of God had finished eating and drinking, the prophet who had brought him back saddled his donkey for him. As he went on his way, a lion met him on the road and killed him, and his body was thrown down on the road, with both the donkey and the lion standing beside it. Some people who passed by saw the body thrown down there, with the lion standing beside the body, and they went and reported it in the city where the old prophet lived. When the prophet who had brought him back from his journey heard of it, he said, "It is the man of God who defiled the word of the Lord. The Lord has given him over to the lion, which has mauled him and killed him, as the word of the Lord has warned him." I don't understand this at all. It seems like on some level this old prophet guy would be partially responsible on some level since he lied to
For
him.
leading him astray.
Right. And I would love to think that this kind of obvious ridiculousness would never hold up today, that we could see through garbage like this. I have seen guys who speak on behalf of God do tragic things to people, and then I've seen spectators of the scenario stand off to the side and say, well, then why didn't they just let them be abused? Why didn't the victim just allow the abuse to happen? It's a bizarre thing. I don't know, maybe this is where they get that idea from. Is that, well, it's your own fault if you allow a man of God to take advantage of you. That's a crazy thing. So, I don't understand that. So, the prophet, verse 27, the prophet said to his son, "Saddle the donkey for me," and they did so. They went out and they found the body thrown down on the road with the donkey and the lion beside it. The lion had neither eaten the body nor mauled the donkey. So the prophet picked up the body of the man of God, laid it on the donkey, and brought it back to his own city to mourn for him and bury him. Then he laid the body in his own tomb, and they mourned over him and said, "Oh, my brother." After burying him, he said to his sons, "When I die, bury me in the grave where the man of God is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones." For the message he declared by the word of the Lord against the altar of Bethel and against the shrines and the high places in the towns of Samaria will certainly come true. No, I have no idea what this is doing anywhere in the Bible. That's all I can say. Apart from the Bible, I will say, the one thing this story does, because of its absolute bizarrity, the one thing that this story does is prove flat out that the Bible is true. Because this story would make no sense. If someone was making something up, this story would make no stinking sense. Nobody would make this up and put it in there. This can only be an actual, real-life historical account of what happened. Otherwise, it would never enter into the text. Because what in the world, right? It is true in real life, crazy and unexplainable things happen. And if someone were to document crazy and unexplainable things happening, that could end up in a book that's true. But if this is fiction, this would never end up in it because people would write better fiction than this. Yes?
Well, the main thing is both were supposed to be listening to God and both were supposed to be doing what God said. And so when the younger prophet was tested, he failed that test. So, but I mean, and it shows that the older prophet was not trying to be malicious because he felt honestly bad for the fellow, although he knew, I've got to just do what I'm
I don't know.
supposed to do.
I will say, I don't know, I can't imagine a scenario where a lie stops being malicious.
Yeah.
I mean, because the text says plainly he was lying.
Yeah.
Is it befitting
Right.
for a prophet of God to lie?
Right.
But it's telling us to beware of false prophets.
That's true.
Someone that's coming and speaking the word, we should be able to verify it with chapter and verse,
Absolutely.
what is being said.
Absolutely. And this is what the Bible will say, whether, and I think that's the Galatians 1:8 verse. Someone go and read Galatians 1:8. I think that's the verse we're talking about. If a prophet of God gives you any other gospel different from ours, let him be accursed.
Yeah.
Galatians 1:8.
But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let him be eternally condemned.
Right. And the word there is anathema, which means let him go to hell and get all the full severity that hell brings with it. Like, it is not a mild way of putting it. You know, yes. So, like I say, bizarre stuff. I can't really say that I fully understand everything going on there. But what we do know is that the man of God should have consulted who?
God.
Interpreter, of course, right? It's obviously the reality. What?
I don't know if you were agreeing or disagreeing. I don't know whether I'm agreeing or disagreeing with you, but the older prophet, I think people lie all the time. And the younger prophet should have known better. He should have
No, that's what I'm saying.
dotted his T's and crossed his I's. Is that the same?
I agree. But here's the thing.
So there shouldn't have been
When a sweet little old guy comes up to you, right? You want to believe him. Little Miss Beautiful Edie, I'm going to pick on you. I hope you don't mind. Okay? But if sweet little Edie comes up to you and she puts a little arm around you and she loves on you and squeezes on you a little bit and says, listen, God said to come home and eat with me. Right? See, that's a different story. You're thinking of some good old villainous. You're thinking of it from the reader's perspective where you have more information than the person in it. Right? But a little sweet old little prophet who wouldn't hurt anybody shows up and he's like, no, God told me to come eat with me. And you want them to be telling the truth because you just instantly love them because it's Edie. Right?
And Doris said, and she has brownies.
And she's got brownies, smells of brownies and all this kind of stuff. And oozes grandma love. Right? So, what do you do with that? No, you're a liar. Right? You gotta, even if somebody looks beautiful and sweet and Edie-like, you gotta say, liar! Right? And run for your life.
Now you gotta check on it first.
Poor Edie. Edie's like, this is the worst place ever.
She's not making brownies anymore.
Oh, please.
But the bottom line is, right, he should have checked with God. If he entertained the idea of going home with the guy before he did it, he should have checked with God.
Right.
This has been a thing that's played out through the theme of Israel where people don't check with God and then they get themselves in weird situations.
And the thing is, too, glory was not brought to God with this.
Right.
At the end of this old prophet's time, he failed the test, as the young one did, and there was no glory to God.
Right.
So that's the sad thing to me.
Right.
The shame that this brought onto God, you know. So
Well,
we have to be careful.
And I can't even deny that a large part of this whole scenario reminds me of a guy who used to be around here. Right? And I think about this and I think, what do you do if the preacher who you know and love and trust comes to your door and then says sweet, kind things to you, and you get to thinking, you know what, I really like this guy. I want him to be being honest with me, but you're not thinking through what he's saying and what he's doing with your stuff and all this kind of stuff, and he ends up walking out with your cat, dog, and roof. Right?
So we could be the young prophet
Oh, for sure.
ourselves.
Right?
And
And as a young prophet, if you know this guy's an older prophet, wouldn't you be like, tutor me, old wise guy?
Yeah.
Right? But we still have a responsibility. If you guys think I'm great and I come to your house and I say, let's do stupid things, you should double check that with Scripture and be looking at me thinking, is this what we should be doing? I don't understand.
That's what I say, that we have an open mind, but don't let your brains fall out. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
Have your mind open to what God is saying to you, but just don't lose it. Don't lose your whole.
And I will say it's interesting because the old prophet, what's the old prophet's attitude toward the innocent young guy who does a stupid thing?
Sorry.
It's his fault. It's your own stupid fault. And I will tell you, people that want to rob you and want to steal from you and want to manipulate you and want to treat you lousy, you know what they think in their mind?
It's your fault.
It's your fault for being a sucker. It's crazy to me. I've had tools stolen, and I've had even other Christians look at me, and there's this balance of it. We should live in a world where you can leave your stuff in the back of your truck and it stays. I get that we don't. But you have choices on the world you're going to live in. Right? You get to help choose what your world's going to be like. Right? And so if you choose to leave your things out in your truck, it ought to be there when you come back in the morning. And I've had people say, well, then you're the idiot if your tools got stolen. You're the moron for leaving your tools in your truck. I am not the villain because I left my tools in the truck. The villain, let's just be real, the villain is the person who stole the tools. It's not...
But we don't need to tempt you.
You don't need to. I get it. Like, there's wisdom. At the same time, there's also... We ought to live in a world where people don't rob, steal from each other.
This is true.
So...
But we need to learn to be prudent.
And it's not the victim's fault. That's like the thing where they said about the gals who were getting molested by the Muslim folks,
Right.
and then they started publishing material saying, you need to not be so seductive to Muslims.
It's totally different than leaving your tools in a garage.
No.
If you know people walk by and steal tools, that is totally different.
Well, so then here you go. All you got to do is change a couple of blanks there.
No, you had big blanks, lots of variables.
No?
Change
So
there.
check this out. If you walk down the street in a seductive way, what do you expect for men to do? It is a stupid thing for a gal to walk down the street seductively. It's not smart. But that doesn't alleviate the villains of their villainous when they do that stuff. Yes, you should dress modestly. That element of it is true, but that doesn't make it okay for someone to go and molest you because you didn't dress modestly.
But you learn not to leave your tools in the.
And you learn to dress modestly, right? I mean, you learn from those things either way, but that doesn't suddenly make the victim the villain.
So we need to learn from this.
Check with the Word of God before you
Yeah.
go follow a moron down a trail of moronous.
Yeah, well, and just a very small side note, a lot of the public schools have the policy that if a bully has attacked your child was asking for it, and they are punished just as much as the bully in a lot of the schools now. We actually had that.
I don't know that is a written rule, but that might play out sometimes in reality.
It plays out. Well, actually, they had a new rule in that particular school.
Interesting stuff. I don't know about it, so I won't speak on it.
Oh, yeah. I know.
So, but the man should have consulted God, and it is not for just anyone to be. Oh no, this is a different scenario. So, verse 33. After this, Jeroboam did not change his evil ways. So here he had this prophecy against him. The altar split in half. His little hand turned corrosive, and asked him for prayers from God and all this kind of stuff. Even after this, Jeroboam did not change his evil ways, but once more appointed priests for the high places from what? What's it say?
Anyone.
From all sorts of people. Anyone who wanted to become a priest, he consecrated to high places. This was the sin of the house of Jeroboam that led to the downfall and to his destruction from the face of the earth. And so, who were the priests supposed to be? Levites. And he was like, anyway, whatever, do what you want. If you want to do it, so be it. So, it's not for just anyone to be a teacher or priest. And James 3:1 and 1 Timothy 2:12 both touch on this concept. Not many of you should be teachers, right? And why is that? No, that's not why.
Held to a higher standard.
There's a harsher judgment. Are there things that teachers don't know?
Yes.
Is that the great problem with being a teacher? That's not the problem. The problem is, if you don't know it, don't speak to it. I don't know about this law thing. I don't know. Don't speak to it.
Yeah.
Because what you do speak to, you're going to be judged as though you should have known. Otherwise, why are you speaking to it? Right? So, yeah. So they face a harsher judgment. So God makes a promise here in verse 34 to do what? It says, this was the sin of the house of Jeroboam that led to the downfall and to its destruction from the face of the earth. That's like doubly strong language there, right? Like it would have been satisfactory to say its destruction. But he adds on to it, from the face of the earth. So, at that time, Abijah, son of Jeroboam, became ill. And Jeroboam said to his wife, go disguise yourself so you won't be recognized as the wife of Jeroboam. Go to Shiloh. Ahijah the prophet is there, the one who told me I would be king over this people. Take 10 loaves of bread with you, some cakes and a jar of honey, and go to him, and he will tell you what will happen to the boy. So Jeroboam's wife did what he said and went to Ahijah's house in Shiloh. Now Ahijah could not see. His sight was gone because of his age. But the Lord had told Ahijah, Jeroboam's wife is sneaking in your door. But she's going to pretend to be someone else, right? So verse 6. So when Ahijah heard the sound of her footsteps at the door, he said, come in, wife of Jeroboam. Why this pretense? I have been sent to you with bad news. And it's funny. You notice that, right? Who came to who?
The wife.
The wife of Jeroboam came to him, and what does he say?
I have been sent.
I have been sent to you with bad news. That's an interesting scenario that kind of makes me giggle. Go tell Jeroboam that this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I raised you up from among the people and made you leader over my people Israel. I tore the kingdom away from the house of David, and I gave it to you. But you're lame. You're not like my servant David, who kept my commands and followed me with all of his heart, doing only what was right in my eyes. You've done more evil than all who lived before you.
Wow.
You've made, that is, right, talk about a tough statement. You've made for yourself other gods, idols of metal. You've provoked me to anger and thrust me behind your back. Because of this, I'm going to bring disaster on the house of Jeroboam. I will cut off from Jeroboam every last male in Israel, slave or free. I will burn up the house of Jeroboam as one burns dung until it is gone. Dogs will eat those belonging to Jeroboam who die in the city, and the birds of the air will feed on those who die in the country. The Lord has spoken. As for you, go back home. When you set foot in the city, the boy will die. What?
I'm just imagining being the wife. Like, your husband's going to do this, and it's going to be bad. Go back home. Have fun with that.
Goodbye. Enjoy.
The kids,
Right?
grandkids.
No, and it gets worse. As you step foot in the city, what?
The boy will die.
The boy will die. I will tell you, that must have been a long walk back, and she must have really been standing at the edge of the city thinking, do I want to take another step? Unless she had no faith in God, in which case she carelessly went back and yada yada, and just danced around, and they got home and thought, oh, I'm an idiot. Right? So, as for you, go back home. When you set foot in the city, the boy will die. All Israel will mourn for him and bury him. He is the only one belonging to Jeroboam who will be buried. Because this is the only one in the house of Jeroboam in whom the Lord, the God of Israel, has found anything good. This is actually the finest compliment that Jeroboam ever gets. And it's neat because one of the things you find here, and I know that there's people who've lost children, but one of the things that you find here is sometimes it is an act of mercy when a child dies. It is God being gentle and kind and loving and tender, so that that child doesn't grow up to be like Jeroboam. Right? So don't just assume because a child dies, because baby dies, or someone has a miscarriage or any of this kind of stuff, that God is just being mean and nasty. That's not the case. God acts out of mercy, period. Okay? So, the Lord will raise up for himself a king over Israel who will cut off the family of Jeroboam. This is the day. What? Yes, even now. And the Lord will strike Israel so that it will be a reed. It will be like a reed swaying in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land that he gave their forefathers and scatter them beyond the river, because they provoked the Lord to anger by making Asherah poles, and he will give Israel up because of the sins Jeroboam has committed and caused Israel to commit. I want you, well, I mean, I don't know, it's about you, but me and my Bible, and I didn't underline it this time, but we're going to talk about it when we get to our next page here. Notice this phrase, because of the sins Jeroboam has committed and caused Israel to commit. When you are in leadership, you can lead people a lot of different ways. And if you're a loserly leader, you lead loserly people. And they didn't have to start out that way. They could have been great people until you got a hold of them. But they saw you theoretically succeeding. And by the way, anybody know, I'm going to tell you about Facebook. Facebook is an interesting thing. And this is why you see people making some of the dumbest financial choices. And the choices people are going to make are not going to get any better as time goes on over the next few years until we wake up to the reality of the disease elements of Facebook. There's great stuff with Facebook, but then there's really lousy stuff too. So people with Facebook, they take a picture of their meal. And they set it up just right. They put the salt and the pepper in the little packets of things, and they get it just right, the right light angle and all this stuff. And they take a picture of it and they post it on Facebook. Here's what I'm eating. It's amazing. So good. Guess what? They haven't taken a bite. They have no clue what it is that's on the plate. But they've taken a picture of this beautiful meal and they put it on Facebook, right? And then they eat the meal and they get sick and they get diarrhea and then they go to the bathroom. I've never seen anybody post the picture of diarrhea or the vomit or the tapeworm or any other disease they got from eating the meal on Facebook. The only thing that exists on Facebook are the good meals. Not every meal is good, but they never post that. It's a lot like casinos. The only reason why casinos stay in business is because the only time people talk about what went on is when they win. I have yet to hear a person say, I went to the casino, I took $40,000, I walked home broke with no shoes. And my wife and kids left me, we couldn't pay the mortgage, I lost everything I had. There's very few stories like that, and the only people that tell those stories are the people who are angry that that is a reality. Right? And so people think, I want to go to the casino. If people knew how many people lost their shirt at casinos, nobody would go near them. Casinos are not benevolence groups. Right? But Facebook, you put only these wonderful, amazing things, so people go and buy a house. When they go to buy a house that's too expensive for them, they put all the pictures up there, and then when the house goes bankrupt and they lose it, they don't put any pictures up. About the lawyer in the front yard taking their property in the bank auction, they don't put those pictures up.
Comes down to choices.
Right, and so everybody imagines, by Facebook, they imagine everybody's life is wonderful and great, and everything's really just falling apart.
People that travel the world.
Only for a moment, though.
Amen.
But they didn't put any of the pictures up of the terrible things that happen, so people think Germany's great.
Amen. No flat tires.
No flat tires? Yeah. So, she didn't post any of the pictures where she was in traffic, could not move, frozen because she couldn't read the signs, but the cars are honking all around her and passing by, and she's like, ah!
We did not post that picture.
Right? She's not going to tell me anything anymore. But God makes a promise to destroy Jeroboam, and Jeroboam is committed to this reality of, and remember his hand is shriveled up, pointed out, the guy didn't do anything to fix his hand. So how's Jeroboam's hand still, theoretically?
Shriveled up.
Still in that scenario. So he's got evidence on his body that God is real and what he says is true, and guess what Jeroboam still doesn't care about? That's nuts. Right? So, Jeroboam's wife got up and left. As soon as she stepped over the threshold of her house, the boy died. They buried him, and all Israel mourned for him, as the Lord had said through his servant, the prophet Ahijah. The other events of Jeroboam's reign, they're in another book. That's basically the gist of it. So, you have Jeroboam and you have Rehoboam, and they're going to kind of go into civil war with each other. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was king of Judah. He was 41 years old when he became king. And he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city of the Lord, chosen out of all the tribes of Israel in which to put his name. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite. Judah did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now notice we were talking about Jeroboam just a second ago. Good or bad guy? So now you have Rehoboam, and he gets just Judah. Remember God said, I'm going to take these tribes, split them up. I'm going to give Israel all as one group, and then your house, the house of David, is going to keep Judah. So here you have Rehoboam, who's the son of Solomon, who's the son of David. And so he's now king of Judah. And he's looking around, and he sees Israel being loserly. He sees his neighbors being loserly. So guess what Rehoboam decides to do? Be loserly. So Judah did evil in the eyes of the Lord. By the sins they committed, they stirred up his jealous anger more than their fathers had done. They also set up for themselves high places, sacred stones, Asherah poles on every high hill, and under every spreading tree. There were even male shrine prostitutes in the land. The people engaged in the detestable practices of the nations. He had driven out before the Israelites. In the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem, and he carried off the treasures of the temple of the Lord and the treasures of the royal palace. So now the stuff that belongs to God is where? It's in Egypt. Okay? He took everything, including the gold shield Solomon had made. So, King Rehoboam did what? What's it say? Verse 27.
Big bronze shields.
Which is a cooler, fancier, classier shield? A gold shield or a bronze shield? If I had 2 equal-sized shields in this room, and I was going to give one of them away, and you can pick whichever one you want, which one would you guys want?
Gold?
Give me. You guys want the bronze shield?
They're both look nice.
That's what they do with it.
Children would pick the bronze shield. Because anybody who realizes the value of them would realize the gold shield is going to be millions of dollars more valuable than the bronze shield.
But would it hold up in battle?
It doesn't matter. The gold shields that Solomon made wouldn't have held up in battle. Egypt didn't take those gold shields because they wanted them to hold up in battle. They took those gold shields because of their value, right? So here's the deal. Solomon made those gold shields. They're emblematic. They're not even meant to be an actual thing to take in the battle, right? They're emblematic. He made these gold shields to say God is our shield and he's a shield of high value, right? And notice, Rehoboam gets plundered. God has Egypt come in and plunder Rehoboam because he's got a nasty, cruel, funky heart. And so Rehoboam makes copies of the original shields, but made out of what? Lesser things, that's for sure, right? And it is the case that when we try to copy God's way is best. It's perfect, pure, worthwhile, and flawless. And when we try to make copies of it that aren't really right, guess what we end up with? A bronze garbage copy that useless and unvaluable. Not invaluable, unvaluable. So God makes a promise to destroy Jeroboam. Judah wants to be like the rest of Israel, and because of this, God pillages them. God sends Egypt in there to say, really what's going on there is those gold shields were emblematic of Solomon saying about God that he is the valuable shield. And so then what does God do? He brings Egypt in there to take those shields away. Only his father, who's chapter 15, verse 33. Here's concerning Baasha. It says, he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, walking in the ways of Jeroboam and his sins. Check this out. Look at chapter 16, verse 19. Because of the sins he committed doing evil in the eyes of the Lord, walking in the ways of
Jeroboam.
Look at verse 26. He walked in the ways of
Jeroboam.
Look at verse 31. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, did even more stuff. So, a bad leader can set a history of care. Right? And that's why I said that phrase back here. The first time you see this phrase is back in 1 Kings chapter 14, verse 16. It says, and he will give up Israel because of the sins of Jeroboam committed and caused Israel to commit. This theme will play out for generations. Right? Where Jeroboam is a loser and he's trained people to be loserly. Like Jeroboam. So, 1 Kings chapter 15. Pull your little papers out. We got all the blanks for this one? I believe?
Darlene took the last two.
The last two. Judah wants to be like the rest of Israel. Right? And because of this, God pillages them. Now, some of you might put Egypt, and Egypt is fine, but Egypt is just the tool God is using to take away those gold shields. because God has already left them. So, chapter 15, verses 1 to 3. In the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, Abijah became king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 3 years. His mother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. He committed all the sins of his father, that his father had done before him. It's a sad statement. When people can start to say about you, you're just like your dad, and it is a legitimate, real-life bad thing. Sir, huh?
Or good.
It can be a good thing. So it is the case that every child learns from the parents. 100% of children learn from their parents. And you either learn from your parents what to do, or you learn from your parents what not to do. You can break whatever the cycle is. If you have good parents who teach righteousness and goodness, but you're not interested, you can break that cycle. And if you have bad parents and they teach how to be addicted to alcohol and all kinds of other things, you can break that cycle. Whatever goes on with your parents, you can break that cycle. You either learn what to do or what not to do. If you have come from an abusive background, you can learn to be abusive, or you can say, I will never be like that. Right? So, verse 6. You have there was a war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam throughout Abijah's lifetime. So Abijah is the king of Judah. Rehoboam and Jeroboam end up in battle against each other. Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. Jeroboam was if I remember correctly, wasn't he a commander? Do you guys remember?
I think so.
Jeroboam, I thought that he was the chief worker. That's right. Yeah, he was good. Whose kid is this? So yeah, he was the chief workman of whose house? Do you remember whose house? Joseph's, but close. That's okay. But he was the chief workman put in charge of Joseph's house. And so Jeroboam and Rehoboam go through this kind of civil war thing back and forth. There was a war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam throughout Abijah's lifetime. So you have Judah kind of sitting off to the side while there is civil war going on in Israel. And so the battle between Rehoboam and Jeroboam is a civil war in Israel. Also too, it's worth mentioning, in a country of immorality or corruption, civil war persists. Civil war persists. Now there are times when civil war is necessary, and I wouldn't go so far as to say, if there is civil war, there is, well, I don't know, you might even be able to say that. If there is civil war, there is corruption somewhere, right? Because that's the whole point of civil war. I will say, in a country where everybody's doing right, there is no civil war, period. I mean, it just doesn't happen, right? But there is wickedness somewhere whenever you have a civil war. And so, sometimes there's corruption on both sides. When there's when there is evil on both sides, guess what you end up with? What kind of civil war you end up with?
World War?
No. You just end up in perpetual, unending civil war. Truthfully, the trouble, how long has there been war in the Middle East?
Forever.
I will tell you this, it's not because of righteousness that there's war in the Middle East forever. Righteousness does not produce that. It's unrighteousness, it's wickedness, it's the idea that I can go around and have 4 or 5 wives and treat them terribly and lousy and this and that, and then when I can keep one little position of a wife open and move on and on and on and on, and just refill it depending on whatever city I'm in. This kind of immorality that is inherent to the Muslim religion, I'm going to tell you the flat out truth, there is very little righteous about the Muslim religion. It is a wicked religion. And I get that that's not a popular thing to say. People want to treat Islam like it is another among a multitude of religions. I will tell you this, Buddhism is far better than Islam. Buddhism says, don't be a jerk. Muslim specifically says, nah, be a jerk. Right? It is a specifically wicked religion, and in this country, or in this area where Islam is so prevalent, and then you have, now and again, you've got Islam and you've got Buddhism and you've got Judaism, kind of are probably the three main religions in the Middle East. Does that sound right? Right? And it's interesting because even Judaism in the Middle East is not that great. Truth be told, it's interesting, some of the most vulgar film producers that you can find in this world have Jewish roots. Right? You've got to be a moral people if you're going to expect God to deal graciously with your country. And we're starting to catch some of that here in the United States as well. The number one thing that we export is immorality in the United States. We need to knock that garbage off. Or we're gonna have the same troubles that the Middle East has. So in a country of corruption, war persists. In a country of corruption, war persists. And by the way, we're seeing some of that now. I will say this last election where you saw people running around destroying buildings, George Soros is lame. That's a fact. Okay? But if we had a country of morality, George Soros wouldn't be able to find a person to go do the dumb stuff he's hiring people to go do. So it still falls back on the people. You can have an immoral person in a country who can't get anything done because the people won't have it. The sad thing is, we're getting to have a nation where the people will have it, where we will indulge that garbage. And so you get verse, and it's interesting because when you get over to this bit about Asa, king of Judah, it will say about Asa that he was a good guy. And there is no condemnation in Scripture here about Asa. So I don't want to be inventing condemnation. But from a logic level, and I think overall in Scripture it would agree, verse 18 it says, Asa then took all the silver and gold that was left in the treasuries of the Lord's temple and of his own palace. He entrusted it to his officials, and he sent it to Ben-Hadad, son of Tabermon. Let there be a treaty between you and me, he said, as there was between my father and your father. See, I'm sending you a gift of silver and gold. Now break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, so he will withdraw from me. Because Baasha was trying to set up a scenario where he was going to take Judah captive. So Asa sends all the gold that's left in the temple to this guy and says, let's be friends, let's make a treaty. And they make a treaty and things seem to work out. However, if it belongs to God, why are you selling it off? Like, the glory of the Lord, theoretically, was supposed to be represented in this temple. And you will find Israel over and over and Judah over and over as time goes on, take little parts of those things that represent the relationship with God and sell them off to other countries for the sake of peace. And I will tell you, if money makes allies, you don't want those allies. This garbage with Iran, let's give Iran a whole bunch of money, let's give them a bunch of stuff so they won't steal their lunch money. If you give a bully your lunch money so that they won't take your lunch money, you've already lost your lunch money.
Exact for more.
Like, it's nonsense. You don't give people stuff so they'll be your friends. That's ridiculous. If you want, you can give people stuff because they're your friends. But you don't give people stuff so that they'll be your friends. That's insane. What's that? What?
Philip asked if I'd be his friend because he'll give me all his money.
Oh, it's sorry. She's already got it. So, verse 25. A major theme of 1 Kings begins, I don't know why. A major theme of how 1 Kings begins, I apologize. Major theme of how 1 Kings begins is this concept, and we talked a little bit about it, of walking in the ways of Jeroboam. Is that a compliment or no? There's nothing complimentary about that concept. And here's a list. Here's a list of those verses. Verse 25 and 30 and 34 and 16, verses 18 and 19, 16, 25, 26, 16, 31. These are all places where this concept shows up of walking in the ways of Jeroboam. And another thing you'll find if you look down there at I, 15:26, verse 30, verse 19, verse 26 of 16. In fact, I think actually right there, put a little split between 30 and 19. I think those second two chapters are chapter 16. Apologize. So, but all of those talk about how not only did he walk in the way of Jeroboam, but then he led the people into sin after the pattern of Jeroboam. So again, you find leaders can lead their people into a pattern of sin. Right? Chapter 16, look at this, we were covering good.
What was, I'm sorry, if money makes allies, you don't want those allies?
Right.
This is correct. I like that you asked it as a question. Wait, you don't want those allies?
I was asking the answers.
That's right. There's a lot of people in America that would ask that as a question. Wait a minute. You don't want to buy people's allies? No, I don't know what that's worth. But yes. Verse 16. And by the way, you've got this kind of thing where, why I say verse 16, chapter 16. Well, you've got this kind of thing where then you have this you get little teeny snippets of different kings that rise to power. You use little teeny snippets, and then all of them just about will end with, and all the rest of the stuff they did are recorded in this other book. So, we don't have the other book. I don't know what to say about that. Apart from we don't have it. But chapter 16, verses 1 to 4. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu. Jehu was a prophet, by the way. He wasn't one of the kings. So then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, son of Hanani, against Baasha. I lifted you up from the dust and made you leader of my people Israel, but you walked in the ways of Jeroboam, and caused my people to sin, and to provoke me to anger in their sins. So I'm about to consume Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Dogs will eat those belonging to Baasha who die in the city, and the birds of the air will feed on those who die in the country. This is like an exact quote of what we previously saw for Jeroboam. So one of the things we need to keep in our thought with this as well is when a leader leads wickedly, it can cost their whole family. It can cost their whole family. So you've seen two people really close together here where the stuff they were doing did not just affect themselves. Who did it affect? Their entire family. If you imagine, I can live a life of sin, but it won't affect my family. Eventually, whatever sin that you think that you've got in hidden, secret, dark places spills out, and your family comes into contact with it, and you scar or turn or shape their course for the rest of their life, if not even your grandchildren or great-grandchildren. So don't be an idiot. That's the bottom line. Interesting thing goes on here. Look at verse 8. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, and it's using the dates it's giving you. They're using the date of the king of Judah to tell you about something going on in Israel. And they'll use the date of the king of Israel to tell you about something going on in Judah. If you were to have a piece of paper and write this down or know all your kings really, really well, then it would make better sense. But as it is, it's like, wait, why is it talking about the year of this king, but then it's over here? So, in the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah, son of Baasha, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Tisra 2 years. Zimri, one of his officials who had command of half of his chariots, plotted against him. Elah was in Tisra at the time, getting drunk in the home of Arza, a man in charge of the palace at Tisra. Zimri came in, struck him down, and killed him in the 20th year of Asa, king of Judah, and he succeeded him as king. As soon as he began to reign, he was seated on the throne. He killed Baasha's whole family. Check this out. Jump down to verse 15. So, in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri reigned in Tisra for
7 days.
Talk about a long reign. He got 7 days out of it. And it's interesting because Zimri is nobody. He is an absolute nobody. What relation is he to any kind of king of anything? He was just the guy who was in charge of the chariots. Now check this out, this is funny how he dies. It says, the army was encamped at Gibbethah, a Philistine town. When the Israelites in the camp heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and murdered him, they proclaimed Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel. And that very day, they're in the camp. Then Omri and all the Israelites with him withdrew to Gibbethon and laid siege to Tisra. When Zimri saw that the city was being taken, he went into the citadel of the royal palace and set the palace on fire around him, so he died.
Killed himself.
It is one of those things Yeah, so here's your blanks. When a leader leads wickedly, it can cost her whole family. Zimri is nobody. Like, he is a legitimate nobody. Zimri had how long of a reign? A 7-day reign. And he has this attitude, if I can't have it,
No one can.
no one will, right? No one can. And so he's got this really snotty attitude. If I'm going to die, if I'm going to go down, I'm taking stuff down with me. So he goes into the citadel and burns the citadel down around himself. And by the way, this is very reflective of what you see in Revelation chapter 12. I think it's verse 12 or so, where it says about the devil, he knows his time is short, he's got nothing to do, so be careful, earth, because he's gone down to you. And the idea is the devil has been beaten, but he knows he doesn't have anything going on, so what's he trying to do in the meantime? Just tear stuff up. If I can't have these people, no one can. And so that's what the devil is doing today, he's just trying to tear stuff up.
But we're also seeing the fulfillment of what God said was going to happen.
That's right. And what kind of people, what are the quality of the people that God is using to fulfill his work? So God said about, let's see here, about Elah, God said about Elah and about Baasha, he's going to wipe his family out, right? And then what's the name of the guy that God uses to wipe his family out?
Zimri.
Zimri, right? Is Zimri a good guy or bad guy?
That guy.
He's a loser. So it's interesting that even losers who think, I have nothing to do with God, God ain't real, I ain't got nothing to do with him. Guess who God uses? God uses losers even to accomplish his work. It reminds me of a story, I don't know if I've told it in here before, but I've told the story certainly plenty of times, where there was a gal who was praying, and the neighbor, anybody heard this story before? So there was a gal who's praying and she needs money for groceries. She needs like $75 for groceries or something like this. And so she's praying to God and this and that. And the lady next door is this atheistic, really nasty-hearted gal. And so she thinks, I just want this lady to shut up. I got to work in the morning. So she slides an envelope with $75 under the door, goes back to bed. A couple weeks go by and the lady's praying and she's like, God, you know that I got this bill coming. It's like $100. I know last time you did $75 just randomly under the door. How cool is that? Wouldn't it be great if you could do something like that? All night long, the city can't sleep. She's like, I've got to get some sleep. Puts money in an envelope, slides it under the door. Lady's like, God, a couple weeks down the way, God, my cupboards are bare. I just need to get food in the cupboards. If you could give me some kind of groceries. It's crazy, but you did the $75, you did the $125, whatever. So I know you can do stuff because you just did these random things. And this lady next door who can't get any sleep because the gal won't shut up, praying to God. So she goes over, she gets a bag of groceries, and she bangs on that lady's door, and she's thinking, I'm going to give her a piece of my mind. And she said, listen, I just want you to know your God is fake. And you've been praying to God happy about this $75? That was me. You've been praying happy about this $125 thing? That was me. Now here's a bag of groceries, and shut up and let me sleep. And the lady says, just so you know, my God is real. And he's so real that he can even use you to accomplish his work, right? And so this idea that just because people are mean and nasty and don't want anything to do with God, God doesn't get to use them. You don't get to choose if God's going to use you or not. God will use you if he chooses to use you. And in fact, it says about Caiaphas that he didn't know that he was prophesying when he said it's better that one man die for us all. Caiaphas was not a good guy. But guess what God was doing? He was using him, right? So, Zimri had a 7-day reign. He has this attitude, if I can't have it, no one can. And then you get in verse 21 to 22, this weird, interesting, almost kind of a beginning of democracy. But it doesn't work because of a particular element that's lacking. So it says, verse 21 and 22 says, then the people of Israel were split into two factions. Half supported Tibni, son of Ginneth, for king, and the other half supported Omri. But Omri's followers proved stronger than those of Tibni, son of Ginneth, so Tibni died, and Omri became king. They almost had a democracy. They had to. What are one of the things that are inherent in democracies?
Voice of the people.
Multiple opinions, right? You have to have multiple opinions to have a democracy. So here they have. Do they have multiple opinions? They definitely have multiple opinions. What's lacking is nobody respects the opinion of the opponent.
Yeah.
So what happens when you have that scenario? Whoever is strongest just beats the snot out of the other one until the other one's dead.
Yeah.
Democracy requires you to have some kind of care, concern, or respect for the opponent. If you do not respect the opponent, you don't have a healthy democracy for sure. And by the way, too, guess what we've grown into in the United States?
Unhealthy.
We've grown into a scenario where nobody respects someone who disagrees with them. And I don't want to suggest, I can feel in the back of my mind Kel saying, don't give the illusion that we're a democracy. We're not a democracy in the United States, it's a republic. But I will say, many people perceive that we are a democracy. A republic or a democracy, either one, is not a healthy republic or a healthy democracy if you're not willing to have more respect for the voice of the people than your own desire to win. Right? The idea that you're going to send, if you don't win, you're going to send the people who would vote for you to go attack the other guy, that does not produce a healthy republic or democracy or anything except just holding people hostage and holding people hostage. Right? You have to respect the voice of those who even don't agree with you. So, and then verses 29 and following through the chapter here, you get Ahab. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Samaria over Israel for 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. Ahab also made an Asherah pole and did more to provoke the Lord, all of the kings of Israel before him. That is a statement that makes Jeroboam look like a good guy. All of a sudden, right? In Ahab's time, Hillel of Bethel rebuilt Jericho. He laid its foundations at the cost of his firstborn son, Abram. And he set up its gates at the cost of his youngest son, Segub, in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken by Joshua, son of Nun. And I don't know if you guys remember, but he specifically said about Jericho, nobody's going to rebuild the walls around Jericho except for at the cost of their children. Right? And then this is exactly what's playing out, so that's why it mentions that. But it's interesting because Ahab starts doing his thing as king. And he knows God's word. Like, it's not like he's unfamiliar with God's word. He gets it. He gets that what he's doing is wrong. But he has decided, if I'm going to be against God, if I'm going to go to war against God, I need to win. Right? And so he fights aggressively and hard to have nothing to do with God, so much so that I'll do anything else but what God wants me to do. And this is a reality that plays out for people. Isaiah 55 verse 11 says that the word of the Lord does not go out void. And what that means is 100% of the time, God's word accomplishes what it intends to do. And so for some people, it pushes them further away from God, makes them angrier at God. And for some people, it draws them near. But it will always do something. There's no one who comes in contact with the Word of God and has no response to it. And I mean even for the slightest thing. You can drive down the road and see a Bible verse on a street sign, and something happens in your heart. You either get drawn closer to God, or you get pushed further away from God. You might drive by the street sign and see a Bible verse up there on some billboard or something like that, and think, oh, these Christians make me so angry. That's exactly what God intended for that to do, if that's what happens in your heart. Or you might drive by a street sign and hardly even notice it, but just think, praise God. And that's exactly what God's Word is intended to do. But nobody has a neutral stance when it comes to the Word of God. So, with that, next time we'll start at chapter 17. And that's actually exciting because I was wanting to hold off on chapter 17. Because chapter 17 and 18 we get into some amazing things. And I'm sure we will not have enough time to do more than chapter 17 and 18 next time. Because we get really cool ground right there. So, what? All right, we're doing 17 and 18 right now. So, let's go ahead and go down for Philip. Go ahead and lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day, for blessing us with such a great church family. We thank you for this time we have to come study your word together, Lord. We pray that you'll be with us throughout this week and watch over us and Guide us through our decisions, Lord. In Jesus' name.
I'll leave the turning off the broadcast for you.
Give you speeding tickets to Germany? I didn't drive both of them. Oh.
That's really good.
Really hard to charge the day for a second driver. Read a map and navigate to see where my side to drive and I would navigate. Because we didn't, we were too cheap to pay. You guys spend any time with stay in the right lane or left lane?
Yeah.
We stay in the right lane for the most part. Every once in a while we get over here in the big truck. It's like driving through LA.
Did you make that? I don't know. I think she's trying to get us because
Because